Hello everyone and welcome back to the new video. In this video, we are going to discuss about Terraform module releaser for GitHub. So in the previous videos, we have gone through the concept of Terraform module already. So if you don't know Terraform module, you can just go through those videos and understand what are Terraform modules. So the main purpose of Terraform module is nothing but reusability. Right? So in order to implement reusability across multiple repositories, for example, let's say we have a Terraform module and this module has been stored in a repository repo1. Okay, and now we want to use this particular module across multiple repositories. Let's say repo2, repo3, and repo4. Okay, so in that case, what we do is we store the Terraform modules in one repositories and we can call these modules across multiple one. Right. Now, let's say we have got a module for EC2. Okay, and this EC2 module was already created, but now there are some changes. Let's say previously it was version 2 and now we want to make it to version 3 and use it across multiple ones, right? In short, we want to versionize the Terraform modules. Then in that case, how can we do that? So that can be simply done using tags as well as change logs, right? Or releases. Within our GitHub, we can make use of these. But in order to simplify your work, in case of production environments, it becomes very much difficult to manage everything, right? So in order to simplify this process, we make use of Terraform module releaser. Okay, so let's try to understand how to implement this within GitHub. So in this case, what we are going to do is for the implementation purpose, we are going to create two different repositories, repo 1 where we are going to store the modules and repo 2 where we'll be calling the module and then deploying the infrastructure. So what are we going to do is first is we are going to write a module, okay, with all these required files. Once we are ready with the module, we'll then commit and push. And after that, we will be writing a release file. So how is it? We'll see in this video. So once that is done, we'll with the help of this particular release file, it will automatically create a tag for you, which will help us with the versioning. Okay, it will also create the changelog.md file, which is required to view the releases as well, right? Then our module will be ready and it will be versioned at the same time. So once this is done, we'll then uh, create another repository where we'll be calling the created module. Now the module which was created over here will be called with the help of source, like we do in all the cases. Just in this case, we'll be passing the repository with the version over here. Okay, so with this we'll be able to call that specific module and then we'll be executing all of these Terraform commands over here with the help of pipeline. Okay, so this is how we are going to implement it. So I just request all of you to stay with me till the end because it will give you an idea of how things happen in an organization. So this is the repository which we are going to consider in order to implement Terraform module releaser. This repository is being maintained by Tech Pivot and it is also MIT licensed. So it can be uh, considered as valid enough for the contribution of enterprise solutions, right? So you can use it at your organization level as well. The most important thing is that Terraform module releaser is simplifying things for us. It is simplifying the management of Terraform modules. It is helping the automation of versioning of your Terraform modules, right? So you can go through these things, okay? All the information is available over here. So we can go through the features also. So efficient module tagging is being provided with the help of Terraform module releaser, right? And it includes module directory content, dramatically improving the Terraform performance. Next thing is about smart versioning. So it automatically determines the release types based on your commit message. So if within your commit message you have mentioned a small change, then it is going to determine that yes, there is a small change and I can consider this as a patch and not as a major version. So accordingly, based on the commit messages, it is automatically smartly detect the release type for it. Next thing is about comprehensive wiki. So generates beautiful documentation with usage examples, Terraform docs output, and full change logs. So the documentation part is done with the help of wiki over here. Okay. And whenever you are creating a release, you also need to provide changelog.md. So it is automatically doing it for you with the help of wiki, right? Next thing is about release automation. So creates GitHub releases, pull request comments and version tags with minimal effort. Need you are able to do all of these things just with minimal effort. So that is the work of Terraform module releaser. It is simplifying things for you in the production environment. It is also self-maintaining, which means it automatically removes the tags from deleted modules, keeping your repository clean and organized. Also, it is 100% GitHub native. No external dependencies are required for modules. Okay. Next thing is about zero configuration. So, works out of the box with sensible defaults for immediate productivity. Next thing is flexible as well as extensible. Customizable settings to precisely match your team's specific workflow requirements. So there are customizable settings which you can use as per the requirements. So over here you can see they have also provided a demo repository. So this is the repository, sample repository, which you can refer. So over here you can see we have AWS folder, and within that they have provided the modules with specific names, right? So this is the way you will have to create your modules. Okay, they have also provided the way here below as well. So they have also provided the directory structure over here, right? So the best practices is to keep the provider with which you want to deploy as the folder name over here, okay? And then within that you will be defining the modules, right? Similarly for different providers you can follow this particular way, okay? Now here they have provided all the steps which you can follow. So what I'll do is I'll also refer this and follow in order to implement it. So I'll be first creating a new repository with a name Terraform AWS modules. Okay, I'll be creating one for me. Now once this is created, what we'll do is we will go to your repository's homepage, and within that, check the wikis option to enable GitHub Wiki. So the first thing that we have to do is enable the wiki option. So over here you get the option of creating the first page, and in here the title is home. We'll keep it as it is. We'll keep this as well as it is. We don't find any reason to change it. And save page. So now we have initiated the GitHub wiki. Okay. So click save page to initialize the wiki. So once this is done, you can then configure the action part, right? So for that, what we are going to do is we'll first clone this particular repository, and once we clone it, we'll add the module, and then we'll follow this process of adding a releaser file. Okay, so I'll just copy this, and within here I'll be opening git bash. I hope it's visible to all of you. So within the downloads, I'm going to clone this repository. Okay, so the empty repository has been cloned, and I'll go inside of it, and then within this we will be opening a VS Code. Okay, so now we are inside of this directory of Terraform AWS modules. Now we are going to create a module, right? So for that, first thing is to create a folder. Since we are working with AWS, we will be mentioning AWS over here, okay? And then within that, we will be again creating another folder for EC2, okay? And then we will be creating our modules with the required files. So main.tf, then we have variables.tf, then we have got outputs.tf, right? So these three files have been created, and I'll get the content now. So we have the code over here. You can also generate it with the help of GitHub Copilot. Okay, so this is there. I will also be adding the variable over here. So variable instance type. This is the only variable over here, right? So then after this, we'll be adding the output over here, the instance ID, value equals AWS instance dot. Let me check the name of this. It's EC2 instance, right? Dot ID. Okay. So this is what is we want to print as an output. Okay. The rest of the things will keep it as it is, or we can also add the security group over here within the output. Okay. And the next important thing that we'll have to add in here is about the GitHub workflows. So dot GitHub, okay. and within that we'll be defining the workflow, and in here we will be pasting our release file. And from where are you going to get this release file is this. Over here they have already defined the action, right? So the releaser.yaml is already present over here. So you are just going to copy it from here and paste it over here. Just right click it, new file, releaser.yaml, and in here you are going to paste the code. Okay, so once you create the pull request, whether it's in the open stage, read open stage, synchronize stage, or let's say closed one, this pipeline is going to get triggered. Okay, and so these are the permissions, and pull request is right. And these are the jobs which help us check out the code and run releaser. Okay, with the help of this module releaser, we will be able to version our Terraform module, right? So the very much foremost thing that I'm gonna do now is to uh, commit the changes. Git status. Okay, then I'll do git add, adding an EC2 module. Okay, and we are going to push the changes. The changes are being pushed, and let's check on the repository. So this is my repository, and let me check. So yeah, so these have been pushed. Okay, since I haven't created any pull request as of now, you can't see any pipeline getting triggered. So what I'll do is locally I'm going to create a branch. So for that I'm going to execute the command git checkout -b feature branch. Okay, now once I create a feature branch, I can now make some changes in my, let's say, within this, if I just make a change within the name of the SG, I just want to keep it as EC2 SG. Okay, so I have made a change. Now I will be able to detect it over here. So if I check git status, I am going to see that this file, that is main.tf, is being modified. So I'll just add the changes. I will be committing the changes with modified SG name, right? And then I'm going to push the changes in feature. Okay, so now the changes have been pushed onto our feature branch, and over here you can see this, right? Now I will be creating a pull request. Okay, I will be keeping the same thing as it is. I'll just click on create pull request. So in your organizations, the pull request is not directly merged like this. Okay, so there is a process in which your manager is going to approve the changes. He's going to go through the commits over here, right? So he's going to go through them first. Once he finds that the changes are valid enough, then he's going to approve the changes. And with that approval, then he is going to merge the changes, right? So over here you can see the release plan has been created by the Terraform module releaser with the version as this one. So this is our first version, and this is the initial release, and the changed files it has considered it as a patch, considering the commit. What was the commit? We said that modified SG name, right? So considering this particular commit, it has considered the type of release to be as a patch. And this is our initial release. So it will be considering it as v1.0.0. So the tag is entire this thing, right? AWS slash EC2 slash v1.0.0, right? And then we are going to create a merge pull request. That is, we are going to merge the pull request in short, right? So the pull request successfully merged and closed. Now let's check within the code. And if you check within the tag over here, you can see the tag has been added, and at the same time, the release has been created for us, right? So this is how you are going to version your Terraform modules with the help of Terraform module releaser. Okay, if you want me to make some more changes, let's make something. What else can I do over here? Okay, I can change the name again, right? So let me make it as EC2 instance. Okay, or let's say my EC2 instance. Okay, now the same thing I'm gonna do is git status. Again, I'm going to add the changes, and now I have changed the EC2 name, right? And now I'm going to push the change to feature branch. Now the feature branch has been updated with the latest changes. And if I go in the code again, I'll have to create a pull request. So I'll click on new pull request, and in here I'll say select feature, and in here you can see the change. I will be clicking on create pull request, then create pull request. Now your Terraform releaser is working. Okay, if you click over here, you will see that this particular image is initializing the config, it is initializing the context. The pull request commits are being fetched over here. Then it is fetching the tags, the releases, and then it is also going to increment in it, right? Based on the previous ones. So adding pull request release plan, then GitHub action outputs. So now over here you can see the latest tag is this, and the release tag now is this one. So it has updated it. So this is how your Terraform module releaser works. And now you can merge your pull request. Okay. And now if I go, I can see two tags over here. One which is 1.0.0, the other one is v1.0.1, right? So this is how you are going to maintain your Terraform module versions. And this is the release. So you can also see the previous releases at the same time, right? So this one is the latest one with the pull request as change the EC2 name. So whatever is the commit will be mentioned right over here. So that based on this, it is going to determine the release time. Okay. Now this was about creation of our Terraform AWS modules. Now our modules are ready. Now if I want to use these modules in another repository, not local to this repository only, I want to use these modules throughout multiple repositories. Then in that case, how am I gonna do that? So for that, we are going to implement another pipeline for that, where we will be deploying the changes related to infra on our AWS with the help of this particular module of EC2 instance, which we have created over here. Okay, so let's go. Now let's create another repository. Let's name it as infra deployment on AWS. Okay. Now again we are going to clone this repository. Okay, so now we are inside the folder and let me open it in the VS Code. So now we are inside of this particular folder. Okay, let me zoom it a bit. Okay, so now the most important thing that we'll have to do is to create a folder for one for GitHub and the other one workflows, and then we'll be creating cicd.yaml. So these three things we'll be creating, and apart from this we'll also be creating one more folder where we'll be having our Terraform code. Let's say um yeah, Terraform. Okay, and within this we'll be defining our ec2.tf, where we are going to call our repository. Okay, now how do you do that? There is a module ec2, you name it, and then we are going to define the source. Now this is very much important to identify how to define the source. So git, and from here we are going to get those values from our previously created repository, right? So let me duplicate this and I'll go over here, side of the code, another repository, that is Terraform AWS modules, right? Yes. And now over here, you can see this is the URL, right? I'll just copy it and paste it over here, okay? Followed by question mark ref is equal to. Now the tag that we need to provide is what we need to mention here. Okay. Now it is what we will be taking from here directly. So I'll just copy this, and since we want to deal with this particular tag, this particular release of our modules, we are just going to mention this. Okay. Now what is a variable that we want to mention is instance type, which will be t2.micro, and the rest of the things will be as it is because there is no other variable. Let me check. Within the variables, if you go inside of it, you can just see a single variable, that is instance type, which we have mentioned right over here, right? So this is how we are calling our EC2 module, right? So with the help of source, and we are then passing the variables to it. Once this is done, we will then go with the CI/CD. But when we are implementing CI/CD, to deploy the changes to the AWS, then it is important to set up OIDC, right? So let me just paste the code over here, and later we'll be setting up the OIDC part, and we are just going to use this code. So basically, if you go through it, you will understand that whenever there is a push in this particular folder of the main branch, this pipeline is going to trigger. Okay, because our ec2.tf is within the Terraform folder, we have mentioned this condition as the path to be Terraform slash star star, right? So once this is done, we have mentioned the pull request to the branch of main. Whenever there is a pull request, this pipeline should trigger, right? Then we have defined the permissions. Then next thing is about the Terraform. So this is nothing but the job, right? So we have written all the jobs for implementing Terraform, right? And for that, we first need to connect our GitHub to AWS. So for that, now we are going to implement OIDC. So it basically, the first step is to check out the code, right? Followed by checking the secrets. Now we will be passing the secrets. So let me just create. So this is my AWS management console, and now I will be creating the identity provider. So over here, this will be OIDC. So I will be selecting OIDC over here, and I will be providing the URL. So I will be kind of using this particular documentation. I'll add this in the description. Okay. So this is the URL which you will be adding. You can go through this documentation, no worries at all. Okay, and the audience is sts.amazonaws.com. Okay, so once this is done, you will be adding the provider. Once you are ready with the provider, you will then assign a role. Now, for that, I will be creating a new role, right? And the trust entity type will be web identity. The audience will be again stsamazon.com. Over here within the GitHub organization, you need to mention the name of the organization. And in my case, since it's just an account, I will be mentioning the name of my account. Okay. And followed by that, we will be mentioning the GitHub repository. Okay. So I will be mentioning the GitHub repository as infra deployment AWS, right? So just copy this, paste it over here, and the branch will be main, right? Next, so the permissions that I need to select over here is EC2 full access, because I want to just launch an EC2 instance, nothing else. So I'll just be providing the EC2 access, and next. And the role name be like GitHub Actions role 1. Okay, so this is the name of the role, and we are good to create this role. And this role got created. Okay, so let's view the role. Okay, so this is permissions are correct. Now here is what most of us make the mistakes. So keep it in your mind that you can't directly use this. Okay, so what you need to do is just go to your repository, go to the settings, go to the actions. Within that you have got OIDC. Copy this one, okay, and just go and replace it with that. You don't need two of them over here, just one is fine. I don't know why it created two, but yeah. So till over here, you just need to replace it. That's all. This is a new feature by GitHub. So we need, because I earlier was trying to do the changes without adding these IDs, right? So without these IDs, I was trying to implement, but it was not working for me. So then I did some research around it and I got to know that OIDC is being provided by GitHub itself. That is the OIDC configuration. The subject claim prefix is provided by GitHub, and the same one is what we have to use it over here in order to get it connected to GitHub. So once this is done, we will be adding the secrets. Now, what is required within the secrets? So over here, you can see we have provided secrets.aws IAM role. Why? Because the role which is being created over here, this role is what we need to pass. So for that, what I'll do is I'll just copy this, then go to the secrets and variables, within that actions, create new repository secret, name it as AWS IAM role. I hope the name is same, AWS IAM role. Yes. So I'll just paste this role over here and add the secret. So the secret has been added over here. Okay. Now, what is this step doing? It is just trying to print. It is just trying to check if the secrets, if the GitHub is able to read the secrets, right? And the next thing is about AWS credentials. So we are configuring this with the help of role over here. So with the help of this role, we will be able to request for the temporary credentials and then hence able to make the changes, right? The next thing is about set up Terraform. Now here comes the main part where we are setting up the Terraform and then executing the Terraform pipeline for implementing the changes to our AWS account, right? So this is all about it, where we have defined Terraform init, Terraform format, Terraform validate. If you don't know anything about Terraform, you can go and watch my playlist on Terraform, where all of this has been explained. And it is very easy. Now it has become very easy to implement Terraform with the help of AI and tools like that. Okay, so you don't need to worry at all. You can just go through the concepts and you will be ready with that. Okay. Now the foremost thing that I'll be doing right now um, is to push the changes. So for that, first I'll check the git status and git add, git commit. Okay, and now we will be pushing the changes to main branch. I go inside the code. You can see the pipeline is in the pending state. Will start, and you can see that it has configured the AWS credentials, and now it is about to make changes to the AWS. So it is validating the stuff. Now it is creating a Terraform plan. Now your plan is ready with the creation of an EC2 instance as well as security group. Now it is going to apply the changes. You can see the security group has been created and the EC2 instance is now in the process of creating. It takes few seconds to create an EC2 instance. and I think it's created. Now let's go to our AWS. Let's go to EC2, and within this you can see the instance with my EC2 instance name with the instance type as T2 micro has been created, and you can also see the security group attached to it with these two rules over here, right? So this is how we made use of Terraform AWS modules which were created and deployed to another repository. So we versioned the modules. We first created the module. We versioned the modules, and then we used the module in another repository to deploy the infrastructure, right? This one is a different repository, infra deployment AWS, and this one is a different repository, Terraform AWS modules. So this is how we successfully implemented Terraform module releaser, and at the same time we implemented the deployment of infrastructure. So this is how we make use of Terraform module releaser to add tags to our repositories or modules without doing any manual steps. Everything is being simplified and the approach is automated. So I hope this video was helpful to all of you. And if you have any questions, you can definitely ping them in the comment section. I'll try my level best to answer them. Okay, so thank you so much for watching till here and have a nice day.